She laughed like it was a joke, called the maid pathetic in front of everyone. But the billionaire didn't laugh. He just watched, then stood up and did something no one saw coming. If you're ready to hear the whole story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as crazy as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let's get into it. Alistair Hayes was the kind of man people didn't interrupt. Not at board meetings, not during dinner, and certainly not in his own home. Billionaire by 36, his empire stretched across continents, real estate, tech, investments. Everything he touched turned to gold, but his inner world remained carefully locked, polished like the marble floors of his penthouse estate. He kept his life curated. His calendar, his wine, even his girlfriend, Elena. Elena was what the world expected beside a man like Alistair, poised, beautiful, camera-ready. She laughed when she was supposed to, wore exactly what society demanded, and never once asked about the parts of Alistair that stayed quiet. That was why it worked. Until it didn't. The house staff knew their roles, efficient, invisible. That was the unspoken rule. Don't linger, don't speak unless spoken to, and never, ever get in the way. Lucia never did. She was the quietest of them all. Early 30s, soft-spoken, unassuming. Always in uniform. Always a step behind, never in the center of anything. To most people in the house, she was just part of the background. To Alistair at first she was too. Until one evening. They were hosting a small dinner, nothing elaborate. Just a few business associates, Elena, and a handful of her socialite friends who treated the help like furniture. Lucia was setting dessert plates, careful not to interrupt. Her movements were fluid, practiced. But then she bumped the edge of the serving tray. A silver spoon clinked against the floor, soft, barely audible. Elena turned. "Oh no," she said, voice laced with mock sweetness. "Did the poor little maid drop something?" The table chuckled. Alistair didn't. Lucia crouched quickly, cheeks burning. One of Elena's friends added, "Don't worry, sweetie, we all make mistakes. I mean, some of us just don't recover from them." Lucia said nothing, just kept her eyes on the floor. Elena wasn't finished. "I always say, if you're going to be invisible, at least be gracefully invisible." There was a flicker. A small pause in Alistair's expression. Barely noticeable, but enough. Lucia stood, back straight. She nodded, placed the last plate, and walked out without a word. The table moved on. Alistair didn't. Later that night, after the guests had gone, he walked into the staff hallway, a place he rarely went. Lucia was in the laundry room, folding napkins like they were the only things holding her together. "You didn't deserve that," he said. She turned. Surprised. She hadn't expected him to follow. Or speak. "It's fine," she replied. "It's not." Lucia hesitated, then shrugged. "It happens." He studied her. "Does it?" She gave a half-smile. "I've worked in enough houses to know how people like her speak when they think no one's listening." "I was listening." She looked at him then, really looked. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why do you care now?" Alistair didn't have an answer. Not a good one. So he said nothing. She returned to folding. He left. But something inside him stayed behind. The next morning, the house felt colder. Not in temperature, in tone. Elena had left early, a shopping trip in the city, her goodbye nothing more than a kiss on Alistair's cheek that didn't touch her eyes. Lucia moved quietly through the main hall, gathering linens from the previous night. Her face gave nothing away. But her hands, those betrayed her. Small tremors. A single tear stain dried on her cuff. Alistair noticed. He had a call scheduled but cancelled it. Instead, he walked into the kitchen, unfamiliar territory for him. She was there, back turned, reaching for a high shelf. He didn't announce himself. When she turned and saw him, she stiffened. "I didn't expect you down here," she said. "I wanted coffee," he replied. "There's fresh in the pot." He nodded, moved toward it, poured a cup. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy with unspoken things. "She shouldn't have spoken to you like that," he said. Lucia paused. "It's done," she replied. "No, it isn't." She looked at him then, eyes unreadable. You didn't stop her. That landed harder than anything Elena had said. Alistair didn't flinch. But he didn't deny it. I didn't know how, he said quietly. Lucia turned back to the sink. That's the difference between us, she said. You have the power to stop things. I just have to outlive them. He set the mug down. I don't want that kind of house, he said, where silence means consent. She wiped her hands on a towel. Then you'll have to speak louder next time. Then she left him standing there. Later that day, Elena returned. Did I upset your maid? She asked with a smirk, hanging her coat. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. You humiliated her, Alistair replied, calm but sharp. Elena blinked. You're kidding. She didn't deserve it. She dropped a spoon. It's not about the spoon. Elena studied him. Why does this matter to you? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Her expression changed, the mask slipping just slightly. Oh, she said slowly. You've been watching her. He didn't deny that either. You're projecting, she added. She's just a maid, Alistair. Don't confuse pity with attachment. He walked past her without another word. But the seed was already growing. That night, he found Lucia on the back patio. She was sitting on the stone steps, the same ones she'd used before, knees pulled close to her chest. A bowl in her lap. Plain rice. Rain beginning to mist the sky. She didn't look up as he approached. He sat beside her, not close, not far. You're doing it again, he said. I like the quiet. You deserve more than corners and cold meals. She exhaled. I don't need more. I think you do. He handed her a cloth napkin. She accepted it without thanks. But she didn't reject it either. After a moment, she said, I worked for a woman once, older, elegant, very sharp. She used to call me Mouse. Said it fit me. He looked over. She meant it kindly? She meant it cruelly. But quietly. The way people with money do. You get good at pretending you don't hear. Alistair looked at the bowl in her hands. She's not the first person to humiliate you, is she? Lucia didn't answer. Instead, she said, what kind of man lets someone stay in a house where that happens? He felt the cut in that. Honest. I didn't know how to be someone else, he said. She finally met his eyes. Then learn. Have you ever had to teach someone how to treat you, or walk away when they wouldn't learn? What did that moment cost you? The next day, Lucia kept to the shadows. She cleaned early, avoided common rooms, skipped the garden. She didn't want to be seen. Not by him. Not again. Alistair noticed her absence immediately. No quiet footsteps in the hallway. No hum of cloth moving across glass. Just absence. He asked Carter if Lucia was ill. She said nothing, Carter replied. But she's keeping her head down more than usual. She always kept her head down. Now it was different. Alistair went back to his study, sat behind his desk, and opened his laptop, but the screen stayed dark. Across the house, Lucia was changing sheets in the guest room when Elena walked in. Didn't think you'd still be here, Elena said casually. After that little drama. Lucia didn't look up. I'm paid to work. So I work. Elena smirked. Careful. Some men confuse quiet with virtue. Lucia's hand stilled. Don't mistake his silence for affection, Elena added. He's generous. Not sentimental. Lucia didn't respond. She finished folding the blanket and walked past without a word. That silence said more than anything she could have screamed. That night, Alistair waited on the back steps. The same steps where she'd once eaten in the rain. He brought 2 cups of tea, let one sit beside him untouched. She never came. The next morning, she found the cold cup still there. Later, Carter handed Lucia an envelope. From Mr. Hayes. Inside was a note. You don't have to disappear for me to keep the peace. No signature. Just the message. Lucia read it twice, then tucked it into her apron pocket and kept cleaning. When Elena left for a spa weekend, the house felt clearer. Lighter. Lucia lingered longer near the main staircase, folding towels in the open. She glanced at the study door as she passed. He didn't call her in. She didn't knock. They stayed in orbit. She baked that night, a habit she hadn't indulged in since before her son passed. Just simple bread, nothing fancy. She left a piece on the counter. He found it. Didn't say anything. But the next morning, there was a book outside her room, same as last time. A novel she once mentioned in passing. Dogged well read. He was still listening. The resistance wasn't war. It was space. Carefully measured distance. Both afraid that reaching would cost too much. That closeness would feel too much like vulnerability. Too much like hope. Elena wasn't supposed to come back early. She swept through the door unannounced, heels echoing across the stone, sunglasses still on. A designer bag swung from her arm. Her voice trailed through the halls before her body did. "Alistair?" she called. Lucia was vacuuming the stair runner. She paused the machine, straightened. Elena stopped when she saw her. "Cold. You again." Lucia nodded. "Mississippi." There was no malice in her voice. Just procedure. Elena removed her glasses. "You know, for someone who works with her hands, you've gotten surprisingly comfortable upstairs." Lucia didn't rise to it. Elena stepped closer. "Did you think he'd replace me with you?" Before Lucia could reply, Alistair appeared at the top of the stairs. "I asked her to be here." Elena's gaze flicked upward. "Of course you did." "I'd like a word," he said. "With me or your housekeeper?" "With you," he said evenly. "Now." Lucia turned back to her vacuum. The hum covered the argument, but not the tension. 10 minutes later, Elena left. No goodbye. Just tires on gravel. That night, Carter found Lucia in the hallway. "Mr. Hayes asked if you'd join him for dinner." Lucia blinked. "Me?" "He's in the greenhouse." She hesitated, then nodded. She found him surrounded by green, a place usually reserved for staff upkeep, never conversation. A small table was set. 1 plate, 1 bowl, 2 forks. He stood when she entered. "Wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "I almost didn't." "I'm glad you did." They sat. Bread. Soup. Silence. Then finally, "She's gone," he said. "For tonight." "For good." Lucia met his eyes. "She wasn't kind to you," he said. "That matters to me." Lucia took a sip of water. "Kindness shouldn't be conditional." "It's not," he replied. "But respect should be." She nodded slowly. "So why now? Why care what she said? Why me?" He didn't answer immediately. "I saw something I couldn't unsee," he said. "A person, sitting in the rain, trying to disappear. And I realized I'd been living next to someone I'd never really looked at." Lucia's voice was low. "Most people don't look. They just glance. I want to do more than glance." That hung in the air between them. She folded her napkin. "And if I'm not ready to be seen? Then I wait." On the way back inside, the rain started again. Light at first. She paused on the steps. "This is where it started," she said. "I remember. I was eating because I didn't want to feel," she said quietly. "It was the one place I could do that without being interrupted. And now." She turned to him. "Now I'm not sure what I feel. But it's harder to hide from it." He didn't move toward her. He just stayed, steady, patient, present. The rain thickened. Neither of them moved. This time, they didn't need shelter. Lucia didn't come down the next morning. She left a note with Carter. "Needed the day. I'll make it up in the evening shift." Alistair read it twice. He didn't question it out loud, but something inside him turned. She never missed shifts. Never asked for time. He went through his day, but nothing stuck. Meetings blurred. Emails unanswered. That evening, she returned. No explanation. Just picked up a mop and started working like she hadn't vanished. But something was different. No eye contact. No quiet glances. Not even the usual nod. He found her in the corridor outside the gallery. Hands tightening the mop handle like it was holding her together. "You okay?" he asked. She didn't stop moving. "I'm here." "That's not what I asked." She paused. Straightened. Then, softly, "I saw a photo today. From the party. The one where she laughed." He waited. "You were smiling." "Not at her." "At the table." His mouth tightened. It wasn't real, he said. It doesn't matter, she replied. It reminded me what this house really is. What do you mean? She looked at him, really looked this time. And something in her face cracked. I thought I was starting to matter here, she said. But I'm just another invisible person in a beautiful place. No, Lucia. Don't, she said. Don't tell me I'm different. That's what people say before they go quiet again. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. I came here to disappear, she said. After he died, I couldn't bear people seeing me, asking questions, pitying me. So I worked. I scrubbed tiles. I folded linens. I stayed quiet. Her eyes glassed over. Then one night I dropped a spoon. And suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. He stepped toward her. Slowly. And now I'm scared again, she whispered. Because if you actually saw me, then that means I could lose it. And I can't lose anything else. He swallowed. His voice low. I know what it feels like to hold on by habit. To go through motions because the alternative is feeling everything you've buried. She looked up at him, expression unguarded. He kept going. My nephew died 6 years ago, he said. I promised I'd take him to the lake that summer. I didn't. I rescheduled. Said work was busy. Lucia's breath caught. They got into a crash on the way to a weekend trip. I was supposed to be there. I wasn't. Silence wrapped around them like fog. I don't feel things easily, he added. But when you left today, it felt like losing something I never got the chance to name. Lucia's walls crumbled in that silence. I can't be someone's redemption story, she said. You're not, he replied. You're just someone I see. And someone I don't want to unsee. Her shoulders fell. For the first time, she cried in front of someone, not because she was weak, but because she didn't have to hide anymore. He didn't move to touch her. He just stayed. Let her cry without shame. Let her exist without fixing her. And that was everything. For the next 2 days, Lucia worked in silence. Not out of fear. Not shame. Just space. Alistair didn't push. He watched her move through rooms with the same careful rhythm, but slower now, like her body was finally catching up to the weight she'd been carrying. He waited. The note came on the 3rd night. Folded, slipped under his door. If you're still awake, I'm outside. No name. No explanation. But he knew who it was. She stood at the edge of the garden, arms crossed, sweater wrapped around her like armor. The house glowed behind them, warm but distant. He didn't speak first. She did. I used to think healing meant going back to who I was before. She kept her eyes on the trees. But I'm not her anymore. He stepped closer. Just enough to listen. Every day I tried to shrink myself into someone smaller, she continued. Quieter. Safer. And then you left a book. Asked questions without answers. Lucia turned to him, eyes steady. And now I don't know if I want to keep disappearing. He didn't break her gaze. I don't want you to. A long breath escaped her lips. There's a version of this where I stay afraid. Where I keep my head down and pretend last week never happened. Is that the version you want? No, she said. But it's the version I know. Silence passed between them. Not heavy, just full. Then he said, you were right. I didn't speak up when I should have. I let someone be cruel to you in my house. She looked away. I can't erase that, he added. But I can choose what kind of man I become after it. Lucia smiled faintly. Said but real. And what kind is that? The kind who doesn't let good people feel invisible. Not anymore. A breeze moved through the garden. She pulled her sweater tighter. I'm still grieving, she said. Still scared. I'm not asking you to be unbroken, he said. Just honest. Her voice was quiet. I can do honest. He stepped closer, just enough that she could feel his presence. Not pressing, just there. No more hiding on the back steps, he said. No more books at my door? She asked, teasing gently. Oh, there'll still be books, he said. But maybe next time I read one with you. She blinked fast. Not crying, but close. Okay, she whispered. And that was enough. For now. Spring came late that year. The first bloom in the garden was a stubborn vine clinging to the old wrought iron fence, fragile, persistent. Lucia noticed it on her way to the kitchen one morning. She paused, smiled, and kept walking. She was still working at the house. But it wasn't the same. She no longer used the servant's entrance. No longer disappeared into quiet corners. Her schedule was lighter, her presence acknowledged. She still did the work, but now she was seen doing it. Carter had noticed too. She walks differently now, the housekeeper had said once. Like she knows she belongs. Alistair didn't interrupt that change. He gave it room. He met her where she was, sometimes literally, waiting for her outside the staff quarters with 2 mugs of tea and no agenda. They spoke less about pain now. More about music. Old recipes. Little things. One morning, he walked into the kitchen and found banana bread cooling on the counter. No note, no explanation. Just the smell of something warm, real. He took a slice and smiled. That night, he left a record in her room. Vinyl. Dusty cover. Something she'd mentioned in passing weeks ago. They were trading pieces of themselves, small, honest pieces. Weeks later, a letter arrived for Lucia. She read it once. Then again. Then folded it and slid it into a drawer. She didn't speak of it right away. Not until they were on the back patio again, where it had all started, the stone steps now dry, the sky clear. It was from my son's father, she said. Again. He didn't respond. He waited. He says he's changed. Wants to meet. Talk. She looked out over the garden. I thought I might say yes. Alistair nodded. Closure? Not forgiveness, she said. But maybe peace. They sat quietly. Do you want me to go with you? He asked. She turned to him. Would you? In a heartbeat. Lucia didn't answer. She just reached for his hand, not tightly, just enough. That was new. And enough. The next week, Elena showed up unannounced. She came in a black car, all polished leather and lip gloss. She didn't knock. Lucia opened the door. Elena blinked. You're still here. Lucia met her gaze. I am. A long pause. Is he in? Elena asked, already brushing past. Lucia stepped in front of her. You don't live here anymore, she said evenly. You don't walk through people in this house. Elena scoffed. You think you've replaced me? No, Lucia said. I've replaced what didn't belong. Before Elena could respond, Alistair appeared behind them. She asked you to leave, he said. I suggest you listen. Elena stared at him. Saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Conviction. And just like that she left. No more words. No second look. Just the quiet slam of a car door. Lucia didn't gloat. She didn't need to. That evening, they shared dinner on the patio. Nothing elaborate. Bread. Soup. Soft jazz playing through an old speaker. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He reached for her hand again, this time with confidence. I don't know what this is, she whispered. I just know it feels like something worth staying for. He looked down at her. You already stayed. I almost didn't. But you did. A moment passed. Then he said, This isn't a rescue. I know. It's a beginning. She smiled. Not even that. Then what? She looked at him, eyes soft. A continuation. He laughed quietly. You remembered. I remember everything, she said. And for the first time, she didn't say it with sadness. She said it with peace. Inside, the house felt different. Not just because of her. Because they were different. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was shared. It was home. Have you ever stayed in someone's life when you could have disappeared? What gave you the strength to stay? Tell me in the comments. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.